Hello everyone and welcome to the Gunpla Network. I'm the Spicer and today's review of the real grade Force Impulse Gundam is brought to you by Canadian Gundam. Canadian Gundam is your one-stop shop for all your Gunpla and Plamo needs here in North America. When you're perusing their catalog and placing your order, don't forget to use the promo code Gunpla Network for 10% off. ZGMFX56S/A Force Impulse Gundam is the successor to the ever so popular Strike Gundam coming out of Gundam Seed sequel series Gundam Seed Destiny. This unit, much like the Ale Strike, is equipped for atmospheric flight and enhanced maneuverability. This would also serve as the main equipment set for the Impulse Gundam over the Sword and Blast silhouettes. The real grade representation of this suit is leaps and bounds ahead of the older real grades from the Seed series. While I do have my reservations about the kit, overall I'm very pleased with the end result. Visually speaking, this kit is beautiful. It's exactly what you'd expect from a real grade this day and age. With ample surface detail that never feels overwhelming, this kit comes out looking very detailed instead of busy. You can expect a great amount of color separation with multiple tones of white and gray, as well as the different shades of blue that are used throughout the body. There are some nice bits of the darker gray inner frame shining through as well, which helps add a little extra surface detail here and there. Pretty much anywhere the inner frame type parts are used, they'll be shining through, from the torso, the arms, the legs, even up on the shoulders. Not only is the plastic coloration superb on this kit, but the proportions are solid as well. Well, in comparison to some of the older real grade Seed kits, the head does feel a little small, probably because the older Seed kits had big heads. Everything else works just fine. This kit also brings a nice mix of anime accuracy and real feeling proportions. It's a good mixture for the real grade line. Nothing feels over exaggerated, but you can still get some really nice dynamic poses out of the kit. Speaking of dynamic poses, the action shots from the box are easy enough to pull off. The only one that may give you some trouble is trying to face the shield forward like it does in the anime. However, this is fairly easily done once you rotate the forearm. Not only does this kit feel much better in hand than a lot of the older Seed real grades, it feels stable. It's not fragile nearly as much as those older real grades were. While it is still a real grade, it is much sturdier than that of the Freedom or the Justice. A few parts may pop off from time to time, and at least for me this doesn't really happen too often. The only part that really liked to come off would be the front skirt armor. But Bandai thought ahead on this. All these smaller parts that connect to the front skirt armor are connected towards the bottom instead of the top where the skirt armor connects to the body. Meaning when the front skirt armor pops off, it's popping off at a joint that's pretty much isolated, and you're left with just the whole front skirt armor piece versus 2 or 3 smaller little pieces popping off out of nowhere. This is pretty nice forethought. Everything's very stable up there, and the front skirt's just on a ball joint, so it's easy enough to pop right back on. Outside of the action shots from the box, you can pretty much pull off anything you see from the anime within reason, although the limited upward head movement may make some looking up poses a little bit harder, and there's a few that come to mind if you've watched Gundam Seed Destiny recently that would be a little more difficult just due to that head motion. But the torso does move a little bit back, not very much, but just a teensy bit, mostly forward, so you do have at least some options there. One thing I am a little disappointed by, however, is the ball joint connection on the lower binders of the backpack. These really don't allow for a lot of outward movement for something that is kind of designed for that. That's really where a lot of the dynamicness from that part comes from. And it really doesn't impact the posing a whole lot because it's not the main focus of what you're going to be posing around. It would have been nice to see like a hinge swivel type joint here, maybe to help kind of give some of those exaggerated anime proportions without actually doing that to the kit. But overall, that's a pretty minor complaint. I do have to say I am incredibly impressed though by the solid feel of this kit, especially considering the core splendor. The legs and the torso all come apart for the combination gimmick. Never did this kit really feel flimsy or unstable. The locking mechanism for the core splendor is really solid, and the way the ab crunch is engineered is actually just a huge feat of engineering in and of itself. Like, the people designing this at Bandai just went above and beyond. Most of the problems I have with this kit are pretty minuscule, and honestly this kit can pull off a lot of really nice static poses as well as a ton of dynamic poses that work with its more aggressive nature. The real grade Force Impulse comes with little more than your standard Gundam loadout of a beam rifle, a shield, and 2 beam sabers. For ranged attacks, we have the MA-BAR-72 High Energy Beam Rifle, an improved version of the Freedom and Justice's MA-M20 Lupus beam rifles. While it doesn't bear any physical resemblance, it would make sense that Zaft would improve upon existing technology, and it's just a neat little piece of lore. As for melee combat, we have the MA-M941 Vajira Beam Sabers and the M71 AAK Folding Razor Anti-Armor Knives. While the knives are nothing to write home about, it is nice that they are very stable and the way they're secured to the side skirt armor and then they close up so you really don't see them, and they're much pointier looking than the older versions that came with the Strike. For defense, we have the MMI RG59V Mobile Shield. The shield has a collapsed and extended mode, and while it is a little hard to get the internal sliding mechanism to work, once you get it moving, it is very smooth. Sadly, we are missing the infamous MMI 710 Excalibur anti-ship laser sword that the Force Impulse uses to down the Freedom Gundam. While the Master Grade does come with this accessory, you'll need the P Bandai Sword Impulse from the real grade line to have the same weapon. We also have the Core Splendor system, which is a neat little gimmick to include, but I can't see too many people displaying it like this. This is likely the only time I'll use it for the review here to achieve this effect. And then you also have the Core Silhouette and the Core Splendor. Once again, really cool things to have, but I really don't intend to pose them outside of the Gundam. They'll probably, well, the Core Splendor will be in the Gundam, and then the Core Silhouette will go ahead and just live in a plastic baggie, most likely. All in all, I think this is one of the best real grades to ever come out. While Bandai does keep upping their game with each new release, I genuinely feel as though this is up there with the new Gundam and the Sazabi. Not only is this way up there on the real grade tier list for its engineering feats and just the way everything fits together and is well thought out, but it is the undisputed king of the Seed and Seed Destiny real grades. Granted, it is the newest one as well by a pretty big margin. Hands down, this lords over every other real grade from the Cosmic Era though. While I would love to see a high-grade Cosmic Era savior to go with this, a real-grade savior would be mind-blowing if it had this kind of tech and thought. I would love to see what kind of new tech Bandai could come up with for a full transformation as well. They've nailed the core fighter system with this and the Crossbone Gundam. Let's see a stable, fully transformable real grade. Last time they did it, to my knowledge, was the Zeta Gundam, so it would only make sense that it's time to revisit that idea. If you're a fan of Seed, Seed Destiny, or just the design, this is a must-have. If you're a fan of the real grade line, this is interesting enough in terms of engineering to warrant the purchase as well. And if you're new to the real grade line, this is a great choice for a very stable and overall pretty straightforward build. Overall, I think this is a must-buy for anyone who is at least dabbling in the real grade line and saves a lot of newcomers from the headaches of the hand grenades that were the original real grades to come out. For the Gunpla Network, I'm the Spicer. As always, friends, keep on building.